Hello everybody, going to be working on these root over rock fusion projects, an update video, but this is also a bit of an experiment because I've upgraded my camera equipment. I bought a new camera and this one has an external microphone, so I'm hoping that issues certain people have had with my sound quality. I've had a couple of people comment they find it hard to hear what I'm saying. I'm hoping that this new external microphone will make things better in that regard, so hopefully it'll be a more satisfactory video from that point of view. Hopefully the content will be roughly similar, no extra bells and whistles from it. So I'm going to start with this one, and I've had considerable amount of dieback again. I mean, willows are known for dieback, but they're also well known for being good subjects for rooting easily and fusing together easily when you think of all those willow hurdles and living statues and things. So I'm wondering if this needs to go into a bigger pot to give it more root run to help it keep healthy. So I'm going to try and put it into this larger pot. It's a kind of metallic silver black grey, for want of a better description. So I'm going to try and get that into that, but before I do, I'm going to work on the top part. I'm going to try and use grafting tape to try and fix some of these branches into position, and they will then become part of the structure. I'm going to take that out, so I think that part is actually dead. Yes, that part is actually dead, so as is this root here. So I'm going to chop that away. That's better. That's just in the way. I'm going to remove that piece as well. Okay, so it feels a little bit two steps backwards, but we do need to go forward with this tree. So having released those to chop out the dead parts, we can now bring them back in. So firstly I'm going to see about bringing these pair together, or whether it might be better if this goes this side of the trunk and that goes that side of the trunk. I'm going to shorten this branch at the back because it's going to be in the way. Okay. This is one of those jobs where you can do with extra hands. There's a dead branch there, needs to be got rid of, and then I could bring that up to there. So let's get me grafting tape. I don't know for certain that this will hold it securely enough. It's a bit of an experiment, but you never know until you try. It would be better if I could keep this tape flat, but it's not going to play ball. Okay, so I'm going to shorten these branches back. I wanted to do that anyway, and they are really just going to prove difficult in the wrapping process if I don't. Okay, so I want to include this into there as well. I wonder if I can pull that in like so. That wasn't entirely what I had in mind, but if I can just persuade these branches to stay in place, maybe, just maybe, they will all graft together into a whole. This stuff is supposed to be biodegradable and will rot away in time, so we will see if that's what it does or doesn't. Either way, it shouldn't leave nasty scars in the way that the wire does. It's also supposed to cling to itself like cling film. Well, I'm not sure what sort of a mess that is, but it's my sort of mess. So there we have it. Let's pull these pieces to one side. I may reuse them in a minute. We're going to have to try and get this tree out of the pot. Okay, so I don't think this is going to be easy getting it out of this pot. It's been in here a long time, several years at least. It's also one of those pots with a kind of belly, which means once the roots have filled it, it can be very hard to get the tree out. There it comes. There we go. As you can see, it had filled this pot and then some. So I'm going to have to cut away a lot of this mass of roots. There's no combing out a mass of roots like that. That's reduced the root ball by quite a lot, as you can see. What's left of the roots will hopefully root out into a new soil mix fairly readily. Okay, I'm sure you're all familiar with the fact that willows love water. What I've got here is some compost, and to which I'm going to add some of my ordinary regular mix. You can find where I discuss the mix in my Chinese elm, my most recent Chinese elm video. And then obviously I'm just going to mix that together. A bit more of my mix. So this has got a much higher organic component to it. Possibly I had a bit too much, I think, but never mind. These willows will enjoy it. I can also use this if I decide I'm going to repot any of my alders that also enjoy a lot of water. Okay, so there we go. So that's nicely mixed up. In the pot, in the bucket. Okay, so I'm also going to take some of these pieces I cut off and they can be inserted into the compost directly next to the rock. I'm going to need to make a hole through the root ball, and they will sit in like so. And these will root relatively quickly, and I can then later tie them in, or they won't root and I won't be able to, but it's worth a try, I feel. Okay, so here's my new pot. I could put this just into an ordinary flower pot, of course. But I just want to use this pot, and I don't have a tree that I particularly think, oh, it needs to go into that pot. I think this pot will suit this tree once we get past the issues of the fusing together. It'll work well with that rock. Gonna add some controlled release fertilizer. Mix that in, and then the entire tree can just be sat fairly central in the pot. And then simply fill in around. No particular need to try and push the soil in around the roots, because the roots are just there, sat on the surface, and the soil will just sit around them. Okay, so I think that'll give this tree a much better chance of fusing all these pieces together. Hopefully these extra pieces will root in and they can be fused in at a later date, and yeah, we'll see what happens from there. Okay, so this one's a hawthorn, and very spiky it is too. I'm not going to repot this one, but I am going to get rid of obviously all these weeds. I'm not sure if you can see that, whether that is a seedling or a sucker, but it's definitely a hawthorn, so I'm thinking possibly a sucker. What I will try and do as that grows up, I will try and persuade it to root in under this one, under this side branch here, just as I've persuaded this one to root and grow under and through. So that's coming out over here, and I'll be careful not to cut that one off. I want that one to grow. So we just get rid of all these weeds before we start. This. Okay, so yeah, I've got some major gap here between the root and the rock. I say root, it's actually of course the trunk, but that will disappear as the trees get bigger and bigger. Eventually they will fatten up and really hug this rock tightly, and at that point I'll have achieved what I set out to do, which was to create a root over rock using separate trees and the fusion method. So if we move up the trunk, we've got an interesting piece of movement here. The trunks have fused slightly, or no, they have fused, and now they just need to fatten it up and they will eventually become one trunk. So I'm going to shorten this piece, but I'm going to take this piece right off. There's a slightly smaller piece above it, right above it, and I'm going to keep that. So that'll keep feeding this trunk, which is also going up into here, so shouldn't be any danger of losing it. There's a dead piece here, snip that off. I'm just going to shorten these pieces that are growing off this root. I keep calling it a root, but it is in fact a branch off of this tree that's helping to form a function of a root, or a feature of a root, if that kind of makes sense. I'm telling you, certain it does make sense to me, but anyway, I'm going to shorten that back to there. This is the piece that's growing underneath that I want to fatten up. I don't want that to be cut off. I'm going to shorten this piece, which kind of goes up in the air, back to this bud. And shorten this back to a bud there. This long piece there's a bud there, so I'm going to shorten it and hope that it breaks further back, in which case I can then shorten it further back. Okay, back to the front of the rock. I'm going to shorten almost everything else off. I'm going to lose this big long tall piece. This piece here goes all the way, that's 2.5 feet of growth easily there. I'm going to cut that right back. Right back to this branch here. And I just got a spike right in the hand. This is hideously spiky, this tree. Okay, just tidy that up a little more. That's better. That of course makes this the new leader. So I'm going to shorten this off. This is a bit of an eye pokey branch. I'm going to lose that. Or do I want to make that the leader? I need more taper, so I'm going to cut that there, and a small piece of wire. Very loosely wrapped. As you saw, that this tree has grown quite vigorously. It'll cut in no time if I don't. Okay, so I have another piece sticking straight out here, but I'm going to leave it on to help fatten this portion of the trunk root and make it cling onto this rock some more. I nearly swore then. This is so spiky. I'm going to shorten that piece back to that bud. Okay, Do I want to shorten this piece? I'm going to shorten it back to a bud there. And then this. Yeah, that's it for that one. Hopefully that'll grow. I shall be keeping an eye on that piece and trying to persuade it to. I'm wondering if I've got something I can just lay against that. I will find a rock or something I can just lay against that, and then that'll hopefully grow up under that branch there. Okay, that's the plan. Okay, so these are, well, I don't know what these are actually. These self-seeded in my garden. There's some kind of evergreen, I don't know whether there could even be Leylandii or something, but I decided to have a go at trying to get them to fuse, and we have fusion of the 3 trees. They haven't quite started to grip this piece of rock yet, but they're getting there. I'm not going to try and shape this into anything spectacular at the moment. What I am going to do is just remove a lot of the foliage from the top to prevent it getting too big. No idea what Cooper's shouting at. Farmer's in the field, I think. Cooper does think it's his field. Okay, so just going to be, obviously you can't cut into brown wood and leave no green on a branch, because that's a dead branch, as with most evergreen trees. So I'm going to be quite harsh at the top. There. That'll help fatten up this portion of the trunk. And that's all I'm going to do for that one. Let's give you a quick twirl, as it were. Eventually my front will be probably there, so you'll have to see all 3 trunks and the rock. My biggest drawback with this particular method of growing a root over rock, which was just to see if it could be done and for a bit of fun, and I very much enjoyed doing it, so I continued on, and I've done lots of other willows and things, is that the roots are almost always dead straight, which is a pity. I'm going to have to come up with some ways of changing that in future ones, but for now that's it for this tree. Okay, so I've just been getting the moss off of this willow project, and as you can see, the stone is quite nice. It's almost a marble, not a marble that you play marbles with, of course, but a marble that you might have as a counter tabletop. Again, I just picked this up in a field while I was out walking with Cooper. And there are, you know, lots to be had. And as I said before, I think the farmer who complains that his fields aren't rocky enough would think this, I'm sure. Okay, so I'm going to remove that piece of wire that's just there doing nothing. I probably ought to repot this tree, but actually I think I'm going to leave it and do it next year. I'm going to take this piece a little bit, this thin whippy piece. I'm hoping I can just best way to just go through, right, snapping. Fabulous. When it's this whippy, you can do almost anything with a willow. This piece I think might be too thick, but I'm going to give it a go. The worst that can happen is it's going to snap, and I'll have to wait while a new piece grows, but it's going through nicely. Okay, so that's gone in under there now. It has partially broken at the joint here. Hopefully, though, it won't die, it will survive. There's a dead branch here and a dead piece there. Cut that piece of wire. Okay, so that actually helps with the tapering, which is good. Another dead piece. Okay, so actually that's done us a bit of a favour. We have fusion almost at this point. I'm just going to shorten these pieces back. I'm going to remove that one and shorten that one. This piece I'm going to remove. Another dead piece just there. This piece I'm going to shorten. That I'm going to leave as a sacrifice branch. This I'm going to shorten to there. Okay, that's enough of a haircut for this tree. Just going to clean off a bit more of this moss. I'm going to be repotting this tree until next year. I'm going to give it one more year in this pot and then we'll see how we're going next year. Okay, last and by no means least, we have this ash, and what I have discovered is, just as I said that willows haven't proven as well at fusing as I would have liked, what I have discovered is that ash trees fuse tremendously well and grow tremendously well together, and these have fattened up. They've sat down quite nicely on this rock. I'd like this area to just squash down some more. We have one root going behind another root. It is a little unfortunate, but I think once this sets back, it'll be away. So all I'm going to do to this one, this was repotted last year, so it again doesn't need repotting particularly, is I'm just going to trim back some of these branches to try and get some ramification. I'm going to take off this weak piece here, shorten back that one, and I'm going to cut back to a new top just there, a nice fat juicy bud, and shorten back these pieces. Take that off, but leave another. There's a bud just there now which will spring out again here, and I'll just let that grow, and that'll help fatten this part of the trunk. And that's it for that tree. So I'll be back with some more root over rock trees and more fusion projects in the future, as well as general video projects all lined up and on the go. So really enjoying this time of year when there is so much to do. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and please Do take care of yourselves.